like to have the inhale bring the stomach to expand, and the exhale, the stomach to fall. You can feel that pushing against your clothes. We can consider that inhale, that stomach expanding, as the purpose and the agenda and that direction, that Uranus, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus, that's the making something happen. You're exerting energy to bring the air in. You're actually pushing the diaphragm down to have the stomach expand. And the stomach expanding is kind of like Jupiter. But little to no effort is required for the exhale. You're just letting the air go. The stomach collapses. So in that way, we can say it's a limitation. It's more the left side of that diagram. Saturn, Chiron, and Pluto. And that means that Neptune is the space before the inhale, after the exhale, at the top of the diagram. So see if you can take a moment after your exhale, before your inhale, just to be in that formlessness. After the exhale, before the inhale, it's neither pad nor lab. You're not on either side of the diagram. So on the next inhale, just think about Uranus. Think about that initiation, that activation, the part of you that gets things to start. It's the part of you that takes the breath, that wakes you up in the morning. It represents the birth of a day or the birth of a life, the beginning. And in between when I'm speaking, just go back to your breath. Don't try to force anything or figure anything out. We're just connecting with that Uranus initiation. In astrology, this planet has to do with rapid changing. We happen to be living in the time of probably the fastest change that humans have ever experienced. On the next inhale, think about Jupiter. So Uranus had us start, but Jupiter is really that desire to attract, to pull people or things toward us. On the inhale, think of Jupiter. On the exhale, think of Chiron. There may be a part inside of us that wants to attract others, be noticed, get attention, have others care for us. And it's resisting the limits, the avoidance, and the boundaries of Chiron, this peripheral, unseen, wounded object. And that's okay. This part of us, this Jupiter part of us, has a role to play. If Uranus is like the birth, we can think of Jupiter as the growing up, the wanting attention from our parents, positive attention from peers and teachers. Sometimes we get it and sometimes we don't. And that Jupiter energy is really important in our early years before adolescence, just to give us that basis of feeling that we matter. Sometimes we get it, and sometimes we don't. Focus on the inhale, Jupiter expanding. The exhale. Just accepting this part of us that is doing its best to get us what it thinks we need. And in the exhale, accepting that sometimes it does not succeed. And that's okay. But of course, if we're in the realm of purpose, agenda, direction, that Rajas energy, rising energy on the right side, and Jupiter is not getting us the attention, that energy is not getting us the attention, it passes the ball, passes the energy to Venus and Mars. This is the only point on the diagram that has two planets. But like Jupiter, they're looking out for us. They're trying to get us what they think that we need. Venus, it could be by absorbing others, similar to Jupiter, but this is more of a merging. We see this in romance. We see this in close friendship. Sometimes it succeeds and sometimes it does not. The mind may want to review past history of its successes and failures, but this is just about honoring these energies, not dwelling in thoughts about them. It's about accepting them. Inhale. Exhale. So we had the beginning, the incarnation, the start of a day, the start of a thought, the start of a project with Uranus. Jupiter, that desire to expand and be seen, be appreciated. But then we had Venus come and modify it to be more about absorption and connection. Sometimes we can go too far, hold too tightly to others. And that's just Venus's role. Sometimes it goes too far. It's okay. All of these on the right are setting us up for the left. And the last to set us up on the right is Mars. Where Venus was the goddess of love, Mars is the god of war. So sometimes in life we feel the need to compete. And similar to that Jupiter energy, but it's not about so much attracting as having power. This planet activates when we want to get our way, when we believe we are right. The last opportunity to push the purpose and the agenda and the direction, because all of these planets on the right know Saturn, time, Chronos is coming, but they want to deny that. And Mars is just another way of denying that. And that's okay. Sometimes it's part of life to get pulled into the aggression and the conflict and the striving and the believing that we know what is best. Breathing in, breathing out. And sometimes when we don't have that energy to win the competition, the contest, the argument, the conflict, Mars then thinks about running away, and that's also fine. Sometimes that's the right thing to do. Breathing in, breathing out. And so now we move to the left side, the bottom corner of this diagram. Saturn, those rings that contain. In our culture and many cultures, we look at limits, avoidance, and boundaries as negative. Purpose, agenda, and direction is positive. If you get your way, if you get the positive attention, if you get the love and you win the contest, that's considered good. But if you encounter limits, something's avoiding you, or you're avoiding something, or this kind of boundary, it's often considered bad. And sometimes limits, avoidance, and boundaries are painful, especially if we are attached to Uranus, initiation, catalyst, Jupiter, attraction, being big, noticed, and Mars and Venus. If we're attached to the right side, Saturn's going to seem a bit fierce, a bit unforgiving. Breathing in. With the exhale, Saturn breathing out. That exhale, that breathing out, it is a boundary, it is a limit, but it's necessary, just as these two sides of the diagram are necessary. And now the mind may want to review past history of limits and avoidances and boundaries, but this isn't necessarily about reviewing the past. It's just about honoring that energy, accepting that energy of Saturn, which comes in to remind you of the rules and the norms and the expectations. They have a place. If we were all Rajas in energy, and no tamas and depletion, we would burn ourselves out. And also, we wouldn't be prepared for Chiron and Pluto. Saturn's shutting things down, end of the day, end of a life, as we get older, just showing us that we can't always get our way, and that's okay. On the next exhale, just honor that Saturn energy if you wish. in the mythology, Saturn would devour his children because he was unwilling to pass the torch, unwilling to accept that time was moving on. And it's very common in our culture. And it's fine, it's just part of life to sometimes want to resist time. But this is the planet, the zone where if we make peace with that, we don't cling to the purpose, agenda, and direction, we may find more peace. So before we move on to the next 3 remaining astrological symbols, let's just sit in silence, watching our thoughts or listening to the sounds or feeling the breeze. If you see a thought come, see if it's purpose, agenda, direction, like something you have to do. Tomorrow maybe, or if it's a limit, avoidance, and boundary, some kind of shutting down. I would suggest that most of our thoughts dwell in one of those places. Each time a thought comes, you can figure out if it's pad or lab, and go back to the breath. Every thought of purpose, agenda, direction, whether it's Uranus, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, or something else, is setting the stage, is inviting limits, avoidance, and boundaries. Each side invites the other. If your mind fills with, or life fills with limits, avoidance, and boundaries, it's setting the stage, maybe a minute, maybe a year, maybe a decade later, to resume some kind of purpose, agenda, and direction. You're just trading off control. If we're worried whether others think of us, or worried about the future or the world or what we've done, regret, guilt, that's all Saturn. And that's okay. That's the tamas energy meeting the rajas of purpose, agenda, direction. But there's a third state in these gunas from India many years ago. The third state, which is called sattva. This is the peaceful state. It's neither the inhale of rajas energy increasing nor the exhale tamas of energy depleting. It's not taking a side. And I would suggest that's what meditation is. It's that accepting the tamas of Saturn, the rajas of those other astrological symbols, accepting it, understanding it, seeing it has a role. And by doing so, we don't dwell too long in either polarity. If there's a rush to suppress, agree, or disagree with a thought, odds are it's either that right side or the Saturn energy trying to keep its power, deny the other side its power, or on occasion admit, hand over the torch, that it no longer should be in control. And that's okay. With meditation, we stop identifying with these energies. We're just observing them. And that means we don't rush to suppress, agree, or disagree, which means they can leave in a timely and gracious manner. If we take a few weeks or months off from meditation, or life gets more complicated, we're not in tune with the sattva, we're either pushing our agenda, our purpose, that's the rajas, or we're feeling guilt, regret, depression, shutting things down, stopping things, pessimism. But when we notice in mindfulness, bring that sattva, not judging it, that gives an invitation for the other side to move in, balance things out. Chiron was a centaur. Centaurs were a wild bunch, but Chiron was different. Philosopher, musician, artist. Immortal. One day, accidentally poisoned. And so, becoming the wounded healer archetype. Accepting pain, and seeing that the acceptance of pain leads wisdom and the ability to heal others. Breathing in, breathing out. Since we're at a counseling center, the wounded healer archetype is worthy of discussion. It's the understanding that just because someone is a therapist doesn't mean they figured it all out or their lives are perfect. They're just practicing for themselves, holding space for these energies. And that allows clients to do the same. If one identifies too strongly as a healer or feels the need to rescue, Chiron energy is really spilling over to that Jupiter, the need to be noticed. Chiron is okay being peripheral, ignored, invisible, focuses on compassion for the self and others, the pain that arises. When the gods wanted to punish a mortal for stealing fire, Chiron offered to take his place. Because he was already in pain and he was already immortal, so his reward was becoming a constellation. So we're honoring this energy. We're not necessarily claiming to be the wounded healer. We're just acknowledging that this energy exists and that it's a gateway from Saturn to Pluto. So breathing in that Jupiter energy, breathing out to honor that Chiron energy. It's okay to not be seen. And so when we enter Pluto, that's the god associated with death, with the ending of things. And in our culture, it's something we don't want to think about, we want to avoid. It's the opposite of Uranus, that initiator, that catalyst. But it's not an inhibitor. It's a transformer. Something has to end for something else to begin. And if we don't cling at Pluto, we accept its role, we honor its role, then we can move into Neptune once again. That formless mystery, that eternal of space and time. So for the final few minutes, we'll just sit silently, keep focusing on the breath or other sensation. If a thought comes, you can notice where it might belong on this diagram, or you can just skip right to going back to the breath, and you can let all these ideas and energies drift away.